One night, a group of villains gathered to play poker, and as they exchanged stories, the conversation turned to why cities like Gotham and Metropolis were far too chaotic to set foot in. And two of the villains pointed out that they'd much prefer Coast City for their villainous deeds, since the Green Lanterns weren't around on Earth that often, and another suggested Hub City, reasoning that its heroes rarely bothered to stop crimes unless they were organized. However, when one skeptic villain mentioned that he had heard Central City was tough but believed it was all hype, the rest of the table fell silent as they couldn't believe what they had just heard, because to them Central City was considered the worst place to commit a crime out of all the cities they mentioned, and in fact, the Joker himself had once visited the city, thinking it would be an easy target. And once he had lined up his infamous Joker gas for his first-ever live performance, the Flash arrived in an instant just as the gas began to spread from the top of a building, and then proceeds to create a massive vacuum that sucked up the gas and the Joker along with it, while sending him flying all the way back to Gotham. Another villain then chimed in and claimed that the story was nothing compared to what the Flash did to a lesser-known criminal, called the Condiment King, because, according to her, while Condiment King was robbing Central City's main bank and had just made it to the lobby with all his condiment-themed weapons ready, he was suddenly whisked away to a desert in the middle of Africa, and it took him nearly a year to make it back home, and because the skeptical villain remained unconvinced, this prompted his companions to bring up an even more terrifying fact, which are the Flash's children, who were supposedly worse than their father, because one villain recalled encountering the Flash's son, Surge, and not only was Surge incredibly fast, he also possessed superhuman strength comparable to Superman's. And his sister, Thunderheart, could hit someone 90 times before they could even blink, then give them the biggest wedgie imaginable just for her own amusement. And after talking about the Flash's kids, they began discussing the many other speedsters who lived in or frequently visited Central City, and entering that place would be like walking into a beehive and thinking you could steal the honey without getting stung. And following that, another villain brought up Mordru, who is a powerful wizard from another planet who could travel anywhere through space and time. And apparently, he had once made the mistake of visiting Central City, because while strolling through its streets, a little girl had stuck her tongue out at him, which greatly offended Mordru, so he decided to take her lollipop to teach her a lesson, and when everyone thought no one would dare stop him, the Flash suddenly showed up and simply wagged his finger back and forth, before pursuing Mordru across every corner of space and time, and no matter where Mordru teleported, the Flash ended up catching up to him with a confident smile and demanded that he return the lollipop, and Mordru was never quite the same after that experience. But even after hearing all these stories, the skeptical villain insisted that they were exaggerating and revealed that all the money he had been gambling had been stolen from a bank right next to the Flash Museum. And at that moment, everyone froze. And then in a panic, they began grabbing their things and tried to escape until there was a sudden knock at the door. And although most of them suspected it was the Flash, the skeptic ignored it and insisted that it was probably just the pizza he'd ordered. But when he opened the door, there stood the Flash himself, who asked if they could have a little chat before taking them all to prison that night.